Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's I Love Learning podcast. I am really thrilled and I'm very privileged to have on my show today Jill Apperson, and she is joining us with a lot of knowledge and inspiration and passion. And I would love for her to introduce herself and just share with everyone who's listening today and who will listen later what she's passionate about. Jill, why don't you go ahead and thank you for coming on today?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So my name is Jill Apperson. I have the opportunity to work for an amazing organization. I work for AppleOne. I am located out of North Carolina. And some of the things that what I'm passionate about is people. I get to help people. Sometimes I meet them in the most stressful point of their lives where they could have just faced a layoff. They could have not, they could be dissatisfied with their job, looking to move up promotion wise. And, I get to help them navigate through this process. Even if it's just a tip on learning about an ATS system and how to fix your resume. But it's one of the things that I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to do.
Wow, I love that. Jill, I've been hiring. One of the hardest things for me in hiring is telling those folks who have invested so much time into the process and who are so close and so good in so many ways, but maybe don't align very well to the position. So I love that you're there to be that person to help them get through those hurdles. Really, what really inspired you to follow this passion? Like, where did this come from that you love helping people and kind of helping them through their journey of hiring?
Yeah, I think it's the culture and the values that have been instilled in us from the beginning, especially with our organization. Our leadership, all the way from the top down, we believe it's a blessing and a responsibility to make someone better. I know that not everybody that comes to us, we might not have the opportunity for them, but if they can leave our conversation with me or someone on my team thinking or knowing that something they might not known before and have the opportunity to help themselves and also help them through this process, that's a great responsibility and, one of those things that we consider a blessing.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that there's services like yours, Jill, that can really help people through these challenging times. Because I can imagine those folks that I personally had to email and tell them that they won't be joining our team. What a mindset that they have to overcome to then move forward in their job search. And so I love that you all help everyone find the best path of career for them. So that's outstanding. So, has there been something you can think of, like a learning journey that you've had that has made you be where you are today in your career, or is there something that you provide to these people you work with that help them get to where they want to be?
Yeah, there's a few things. Like for me, my learning journey is, throughout my life, I've had great leadership, and I take a piece of every one of my leaders moving through that, you might hear me say something or do something, but that's something that's been in a value that's been instilled with me in the past. And those are things that I'm grateful to pass on. But going back to when you mentioned hard conversations in our company, we call that real love. And sometimes having difficult conversations aren't easy, but if it comes from a place in your heart, then it's the conversation to have.
Absolutely. Coming from an authentic place is so important, and really, really connecting with people in that way. I think it's really important that you shared that this is something that is very difficult to do on your own. So, having people in your lives, last week I had Sadie Church on my podcast, and she talked about how her mentor really helped. And it's like having mentors in your life are so important to be able to overcome. And so, that's so outstanding that you've had that as well to help you get to where you are.
It's kind of like
Absolutely.
that little angel on your shoulder. You remember what they say and they're whispering in your ear so you can, do the best you can.
Yeah, I love that. We should do a little series on what those positive messages should be as you're going through the job search. Oh my gosh, when I go through LinkedIn and I look at people's posts, and just to have a resource to help you is amazing. And I think it's so important, like you said, to have that voice. And when you think of that, one thing I do is I study authentic learning and like these meaningful experiences that help you get through the next stage. I had a post, somebody messaged me yesterday and said that they feel like their career was kind of ended because of the type of training that they've had, and that's horrific. And so when you think of authentic learning in your context or your life, how do you approach it, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, for me personally, like when we first connected, I also mentioned about being dyslexic and how I like
Mhm.
bite-sized learning. And some of those skills that I learn and, when I talk to other people, I talk about, you have to be flexible and
Mhm.
ability to change because you're learning today versus you're learning tomorrow, it changes and you have to be open to changes and what might come your way, and don't let that stop you or don't let you get you down. Things, you have to be flexible and things come and go and things you learn and it's there for the rest of your life and you'll always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. So even having a learning challenge yourself, I mean, you've come so far and you've done so well and you've made such an impact on so many people's lives that I love that. So really, if you're having a learning challenge or there's something that, you're struggling with, finding those resources to help you, you're right, are critical. And don't get discouraged, right? Because there may be something with AI or technology or even people that will help you get to the next stages.
But where you're weaker in one area, you're stronger in the other. I don't see it as a challenge. I see it as a superpower because
Oh, I love that.
I
Yes.
might I might see the world different than you someone else, but I
Mhm.
might, because I have this weakness, I know this area is my strength. So those are the things I focus on.
Awesome. So we all have superpowers. Absolutely. All, every one of us. So thinking of that, I'm sure you've had to overcome learning hurdles in your own life, or maybe you've helped somebody else overcome a learning hurdle or something impossible in their own life. What was that like, and how did you overcome that hurdle to get to where you are today?
Yeah. Like for me, like as time and technology advances, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Chat GPT.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I embrace all technology and it helps me in my job today, but then it also helps me in my career when I talk to clients about how I find candidates and how, it's like being Sherlock Holmes and I have all these tools that helps me narrow down to get to the right people, and the ability to know them inside and out and use them is great.
Mhm.
I mean, even if someone's struggling to write a great sentence, you have chat, but then also there's tools that in Outlook that'll speak to you.
Oh,
So
wow.
you hear stuff
Mhm.
versus reading and you
Mhm.
might not like the way it sounds, and so
Yeah.
you have all those tools that you can just change your verbiage.
Right, absolutely. I say this a lot with learning. So with Luma, a lot of times what we'll do is present content that you can learn in multiple ways, right? So whether you can listen to it or you can read it or you can have it translated, it's so critical because we all learn at different paces. And like you said, there could be superpowers we have in areas and maybe in other areas we need help. So I like that there's tools that you've been able to use to help you get to where you've been today. What do you think the most powerful learning experience has been that you've had? Can you think of a time that maybe there was something that was really pivotal to you that was an experience?
Yeah. I definitely, like, for me, learning and growing all comes from life. As
Mm.
we age, as time goes along, we have all these different experiences and we take the good, the bad, and everything else in between, and we learn from that. And so I think those for me have been the most important learning experiences of my life. But then also, as I'm studying for the PHR right now.
Wow.
I take it. And, when we go back to those micro learnings, I
Yes.
like taking a subject at a time and I like looking at the little videos and how people are like animating it. And so when
Uh-huh.
I read it on the test, I can have that kind of like envisioned in my brain what I saw and I heard and I read. So when I
Mhm.
go answer the question, I know which one's right because it kind of like total recall, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
definitely as time goes on, I know that those little bits of learning as we go along, that I'm not
Uh-huh.
studying for hours. I take a subject at a time, maybe 15 minutes a day, and then I move
Wow.
on to the next.
Got it. That's an awesome suggestion for someone
Mhm.
that might have a similar learning ability, is to take things and break it up, is what you're saying. Break them up into smaller bits and maybe not spend hours and hours studying, right? It sounds like you might not study for long periods of time. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, it's partly because I don't have a lot of time, but,
Uh-huh.
I wanna learn it, move on, but I also wanna make sure that my time management with everything else fits in too.
Got it. Got it. So fitting it in when you
Mhm,
can. Reinforcing the concepts over time too can help you with that exam. So
mhm,
revisiting it and
mhm,
rethinking it and remixing it and listening to it. Thank you so much for those
mhm,
strategies. So you deal with a lot with talent management and staffing. And so what do you tell someone if they come to you and let's say they've been looking for a job for 8 months? Maybe they've been looking for a job for a year and they say, Jill, I've lost my passion. I've lost my
mhm.
drive. I feel like I'm at the end of my road at this point. What would you say to them, or what advice would you give them as where they're at in the hiring process, or where they're at in
Yeah.
their life?
And sometimes it's the first step is self-reflection. Like,
Mm,
if they lost their passion, maybe this is not the road they wanna be on. If they're in one career field, is that what you wanna do? We talk a lot when I talk to candidates about targets. What
mm,
industry, what job title, because sometimes you might want to go a different direction. You might want to do something else because it's all about, at the end of the day, are you happy? Will you be happy
mm,
in this role? So, I sleep better at the end of the night if I place somebody into an environment where it's a great culture and they're happy. I don't want to place
mhm,
someone just because it's a job and they're miserable every single day. But first step is self-reflection. And then the second step is, let's make sure that, your presentation is on point. When it comes
mm.
to the resume, there might be a typo that they didn't see that I see, even if the font sizes are different. So they're a presentation. So from the resume to even what's on LinkedIn, and their
Mm.
profile on LinkedIn needs to be perfect before would be one of the first couple steps.
I like those steps. I'll build on to that, Jill, because I just went through the hiring process. And so I would say definitely double checking your work. We had candidates who sent back Q&A forms without any content in it. It's like they sent it back and there was no content. And, definitely double checking that and making sure that, like Jill said, that your presentation is exactly representing yourself. The other thing too is, if you're interviewing for a job and you're talking about, your passion of connecting with people, make that part of your approach in the job hiring process. We had candidates that talk like that, didn't send thank you emails, didn't say they appreciated their time with us. I mean, that everything that you do during the job hiring process from an employer side is important. And
Mhm,
so you represent yourself through the hiring, through these things, so that you want to present the best, like you said, the best person that you are in that moment, because that's what you're hiring. You want to hire that person. And we started this conversation talking about authenticity, and you said, finding something that you're happy with and being who you are, right? And do you see that a lot? I mean, is that something you coach a lot with your candidates?
and we do, and
Mm,
even on the client side too, because, you're not hiring an employee, if you think about it, you're there 5 days a week,
mm,
8 hours, that you're there more than you are at home, so that becomes your family member too.
mm.
So, those are people that you're married to, essentially, and you want, like, a happy house.
Absolutely, you want a happy house, absolutely.
And it's all about how you fit together, and
Mhm.
sometimes if it's oil and vinegar, you don't mix, but you wanna make sure you have that perfect culture match, that what your beliefs are their beliefs and vice versa, because that just makes a really great work culture.
Absolutely. And if you're not happy at the position that you're at, you're going to bring that to the job and your team. And so I always talk about, and you mentioned this, is finding that, be reflective, find really what it is that makes you happy, because you are going to work 85% of the time. And if you're in a position that you're no longer happy, You just have to have the courage to admit that and try to find the next steps. Connect with Jill, connect with people that can mentor you and help you get to the next step. Absolutely. Jill, if there's anything else, what else would you want to share to people listening today? Is there anything that lasting advice or anything that you would want to share?
Yeah. Um, Lasting advice is, as you go through this journey of finding a new job in your current job, it's all about being yourself,
Mm.
and the best representation of yourself, honest, open, have those real love conversations with your team, with your employer, because in the end, honesty is always the best policy, but sometimes having those difficult conversations are the way to move forward.
Excellent. I love that. Jill, if someone wants to reach out and connect with you, get mentored, be supported, how can they find you?
Definitely. I'm on LinkedIn.
Mm.
Can definitely reach out. All my contact information is there.
Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for joining me today. You're such a pleasure and such a great light for the industry and for many industries. Thank you for helping people find the right spot in their career. I appreciate it.